Okay.
Listen only. I guess Loria will take us off of that when it's time.
Oh, I'm muted. Sorry, guys, I was muted. I
Oh,
want to welcome everyone to the CARES November webinar. My name is Loree Talbert, and I am a person in long-term recovery. My life has changed for the better. I am a better daughter. I'm a better mother. I'm a better friend and coworker. But most of all, well, not most things I'm most proud of is that I am the grandma. And my granddaughters tell me that I'm her BFF, and I love. I do. I love being a grandma. And I speak out about recovery because I want others to have an example by sight of what recovery looks like. First of all, I'd like to go over some general housekeeping rules. Everyone will be muted throughout the webinar except for the presenters. If you have a question or if you want to make a comment, please raise your hand and I will unmute you. Another option is to type your question into the question pane and I'll read your question for you. In addition to that, this webinar is worth 1.5 CEUs. You will receive a thank you email for attending and acknowledging your presence at this webinar in the next day or two. Please retain that for your personal records, as we do not send out certificates for webinars. So you are in for a treat today. Our presenters today are Alana Mullis and Shonda Santana of Divas Who Win. Alana is a CARES and a peer recovery coach at Divas Who Win Recovery Community Organization. Alana, please introduce yourself by saying your elevator speech and anything else you have to say.
Hey everyone, my name is Elena Mullis, and I am a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is it's been a little over 2.5 years since I've indulged in reckless behaviors. Today I am a mother. Today I'm a friend. I'm also a person who utilizes medication as a tool in my pathway. And actually working at the Divas Who Win Freedom Center, which is a RCO, it has given me a platform to be able to stand up today and say that out loud without facing as much stigma as I faced in the community a year ago. I also, like Loree said, I am the I just switched over to the advocacy and training coordinator role at the Divas Who Win. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Shonda Santana is the founder and executive director of Divas Who Win Recovery Community Organization. Shonda, please introduce yourself and tell us more about Divas Who Win.
sure. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. So I am Shonda Santana. I'm the founder and executive director of Divas Who Win. I am a mother in long-term recovery, and what that means for me is it's been 13 years and I guess 1 month now since I last used any alcohol or drugs of any type. So life is radically different today than it was 13 years ago. I have 6 children, and due to my recovery, I was able to transition out of a really toxic marriage about 8 years ago, and I've been single parenting it since then. But I've watched my children go on this journey with me and grow and go on and graduate from college, and their paths have taken them several places, and I've just been alert and available and aware and present to show up for the multiple some speed bumps, some victory laps. So I've been there with them. So that's what I would be most proud of. And I'm also a woman in long-term recovery from the sex trade. I came out of that 22 years ago. And so this recovery journey has given me the courage to even speak out about that part of my life. So that kind of segues into Divas Who Win. We are an RCO / ARSC Addiction Recovery Support Center here in Athens, Georgia. and we have a dual mission. We support women who are in recovery from addiction, as well as women leaving the sex trade or sex trafficking survivors. So we've got a building here in Athens that we recently transitioned into, where there's a bus stop right out in front. We were tucked away a bit, but we're right out here on the main road now, and our peers are walking by our building every day, and good days are when they actually come inside. So,
All right, it's on you for your presentation.
okay. All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. I did want to point out that embedded there underneath the handouts tab is the Layered Lady presentation if you all wanted to print this off after we are finished. So I guess we'll just start with, this cover here, the Layered Lady, and why would I name this presentation that? And so I did, and I just thought she was cute to pieces, but the clothes everywhere, and it puts me in the mind of our experience and what we deal with on a daily basis is we do primarily serve women. I would say about 95%. And our ladies come with piles of things going on in their lives. They come, we think it's one thing, and then they take off another layer and it gets uncovered that they've got situation B going on. Then they take off another layer and we discover they have situation C going on. So for us, it's just an exciting journey to walk alongside these ladies and help them unpack what they're ready to unpack, uncover what they're prepared to uncover, or maybe they just need some more time walking hand in hand with someone who has walked similar pathways. So that is the Layered Lady. Uh,
Hey,
I've
Shonda,
yes,
sorry to interrupt, but I have two hands raised, and I don't know. Is it okay to go
sure,
ahead?
sure.
Answer? Okay, Yolanda James, your hand is raised. Do you have a question? You are unmuted. You have to, Yolanda James. Okay, she unraised her hand. So Amanda Strittmeyer, your hand is raised. Do you have a question? Amanda Strittmeyer? Okay. All right. Nope. All right, Yolanda. This is your last chance. Thank you, Shonda. No
Okay,
response.
all right. All right. Well, I've shared with you the mission, but here we are again. We create sustainable recovery opportunities for women who are at risk in Northeast Georgia. That's the primary area that we serve here in Athens. And these are ladies who may have substance use disorders and that are vulnerable to re-victimization in the sex trafficking and trade industries. And the way in which we deliver these services, we accomplish it through advocacy, intervention, education, and peer support. So on our team here at Divas, we are a small staff of 4, and all of us have 1, 2, or all 3 layers of the mission as part of our lived experience. So we just leverage that in terms of helping and coming alongside our peers. All right, so let's see, okay. All right, so as we spend this next hour together, the goal of the presentation, we want to just sort of explore the fact that we have this dual mission. We are the only gender-specific dual missioned RCO in the state of Georgia. So we're pretty proud of that, that this seemingly unique niche is recognized in the state of Georgia, and we were allowed to open up our facility. We do want to discuss and identify the various layers that are unique to women in recovery. We will talk about some of the services specific to our sex trafficking survivors and ladies coming out of sex work. And then the vital role that our community plays in collaboration. And we'll kind of go through that layer by layer as well. All right, let me. My slide is not advancing here.
Are you pushing that button?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. While you're doing it, they had someone have a question, and it's from Lucy Todd, and she says, Shonda, does your organization service children that is being sex trafficked as well?
So that's a great question. No, we only serve adults in terms of our services here in the center. But when we have had situations where someone has referred a youth to us, we are connected to various agencies here that take that on and are able to assist our younger peers. But in terms of in our facility, we only serve ages 18 and over.
Dr. Lucy Todd, you're unmuted. If you have an additional comment, you can do it now.
Just hearing a lot and noticing that one of our church ministries are reaching out to teen girls and then elementary school girls, and I understand that men are watching outside the schoolrooms and trying to get them to get into cars. In addition to that, some moms are working with the pimps and having their children, their elementary school age children, influence some of their peers to get on board with sex trafficking. And I was just wondering if there are if your organization or others are targeting that specific age group now. But you did answer the question, and you said that you're able to, if you do have kids that are being sex trafficked and you find out about it, you do know of some place to direct them to get the help that they need. Is that correct?
Yes, so we are part of the Atlanta Human Trafficking Task Force, as well as the STAR Task Force, which is local here in Athens. So we work directly with the Athens Clarke County Police Department, and there's an organization called Georgia Cares. They kind of sit, as the way that I like to look at that, is on the mountain of sex trafficking advocacy and education in the entire state of Georgia. So they are the agency. Anytime you call the National Human Trafficking Hotline, you will be fielded through to Georgia Cares, and they have advocates and clinicians that come on site to do an evaluation of that child, that either the suspicion of trafficking is going on, and they make the necessary assessments, and they work hand in hand with our local DFACS departments as well.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Very
ma'am.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's see if I have conquered my technical difficulties. So the overview is we like to unpack the layers of a woman's journey in recovery and explore those unique dynamics that impact her wellness. So this is what we found in our time. So Divas Who Win, we became a 501c3 nonprofit here in Georgia back in the spring of 2018. And we at the time were already having listening sessions in our community, trying to not duplicate services here, find out if there was a need or interest in what we wanted to bring to community. So we began having meetings at that time, all recovery meetings. And then September of last year, we were able to actually open our doors to a tiny 300 square foot room. And we just started asking ladies to come. So so much has happened in that last year and 4 or 5 months. And these tabs here are what we've discovered to be a little different or unique compared to our male peers that we encounter. We find that many of our ladies are having challenges in some of these areas. Many are currently experiencing domestic violence or have domestic violence in their past. Many of them are sexual trauma survivors, sexual violence survivors. Many are single parents and having custody issues, whether they are racing the clock for custody, if their child has been in the system a significant amount of time, or they have family members that are holding on to their kids for them while they are in a local recovery residence. We also find that, women, while they were suffering from the disease of addiction, perhaps their spouse was also, and maybe as life would have it, the woman was the one that either she became incarcerated first or chose treatment first, however it worked out. But it turns out that maybe dad is still actively using, and it's just a different lifestyle that he's choosing. So our ladies have some tough decisions to make in terms of divorce and compliance with the multiple agencies that are in their lives. We have relationship management, and we'll talk more about this as the slides go on, but our ladies talk about their struggles. Once they are able to separate themselves from the drugs, then they begin becoming obsessive in codependent relationships or sexual relationships that they can't quite manage and get under control. So we try to create safe space here to go through all of those things. And then lastly, financial independence. We do have women who are coming out of the sex trade. I like to say by choice or by force. We do have women that are returning citizens and felony records and are really challenged, if they are trying to do this on their own without having a significant other of some sort. That financial piece can be quite a mountain to climb if they have to climb it alone. So we try to join them in that effort. All right, so next, this is just our service schedule here. I won't go through all the line items. We're going to talk specifically about some of the services as we go through the presentation, but we are open up almost 50 hours a week. So we are here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're here from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then we are open the first and the third Saturday of the month from 10 till 3 p.m. All right, so the unique services that keep our peers revisiting our center in a continuum, we labeled that way because we want to talk about continuous engagement. So in our community, it looks different for every RCO, but here in Athens, recovery really has a voice. We are not one of the communities that, you're treading a whole new pathway. So for us, when we opened our doors, community was ready to receive the services. The bulk of the women that we see here, I would say about 80% are women who are living in local recovery residences. Some people refer to them as halfway houses. So that's the bulk of our ladies. So these are women who have a strong 12-step fellowship as a foundation, and they come here and they get to experience something different. They get to experience what they're accustomed to and get involved as well with the other services that we offer. So with saying that, our programs here, the recovery residences, are 6-month to 12-month programs. So what we found is in the last year, we do have peers who started here September of last year, and they're still signing in the book today because they graduated their programs and have decided to make Athens home. So here on this slide, here are some of the services that we offer um, that really keep the engagement going on a consistent basis. And that would be our massage, our art and creativity lounge, our self-care parlor and career closet, the game room, and due to the desire in the community, we are now renovating a small building we have out back that will be our yoga and Pilates center. And I'll talk more about these individual services as we go along. And I think Laree has a poll question for you all.
Okay, great. So this first, wait a minute. This first question is, who is here in the room? Are we cares, CPS, counselors, or others? So let's get 100% participation. Okay, we up to 56%, 60. Come on, guys, 72, 70s, 80. All right, 2 more seconds. I'm gonna close it and read the results. 1, 2. All right. So, 82% are cares. No CPS mental health, and 18% are counselors. Awesome. 0 for others. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Laree. All right, there we are. Okay. So next we can just briefly talk about, I said that we have many women that continue to come and see us with the time of a year having been here, but that doesn't go without the speed bumps that are inevitable. When we talked on a few slides before about the 6 parts that we consider the multiple layers of a lady, those each of those individually are a lot, and sometimes our ladies hit one of those and it's a speed bump. But what we feel is through our unique services, our peers keep showing back up, and when their journey hits a speed bump, we're here to keep walking alongside them. And I really think that that's one of the beautiful things about an RCO, because let's say someone's pathway was either in the faith arena or in a traditional 12-step fellowship. Oftentimes in the past, I've been doing this work for almost 12 years, but in the past, when women hit a speed bump, which might mean a setback in her recovery, she just sort of disappears altogether. You just don't hear from her or see her again until the bottom has kind of fallen out. But what we're finding here in this RCO, what we're finding out there is that because of the other services that our peers are able to participate in, they just keep showing up. It seems like they come back around faster, and that's a beautiful thing. When we think about coming out of the sex trade and being a survivor, so I think one of the very important things about our mission that I didn't say in the beginning is that I'm someone who's in all 3 parts of that mission, because my daughter, who was a teenager at the time, was rescued from a family of traffickers 2 years ago. And our story had a great and a miraculous ending, I actually should say. But even as we walk with her and she comes to the RCO, man, there's just so many speed bumps. There's so much trauma. There's so much involved in getting someone back to ground zero, so to speak. So we keep our ear leaning in, listening to what it is that our peers need next, and considering the multiple vulnerabilities that they have in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of those areas that were labeled in the layers. Okay, so these are just a few. When I see that closet, that just, when our ladies show up here for the first day and she's just checked in, she's either just paroled out of prison and we're taking her to the DRC to check in with parole, or she's just getting out of jail into a recovery residence, or just coming off the street. The layers behind these slides, it's just a lot, and it can be overwhelming, all the things that she has to deal with. So one of the first things we try to do with a woman who is new in recovery is we try to get her booked on our massage schedule. And some of you may ask, massage and recovery, I don't know if you're making a connection there, but it's a beautiful thing. So Jamie Toludo is our peer coach, and Jamie is a CARES, and she has her own private practice, but she is partnered with us 1 day a week here at Divas, and we have her for a 7-hour stretch. And she's at this point booked out anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks in the future. But Jamie loves working with women who are trauma survivors, women who may be utilizing medication assisted treatment, and just any woman who is trying to release trauma from her body. And that could be addiction as the trauma. So she does this through light therapy, sound therapy, sense therapy, and we use PCOMs so that our peers can check in anytime they come in for a massage. They get to experience a peer check-in, and they keep their own scorecard on their wellness to see how they're doing. So that's a really popular service that we started back in January, and we are booked until January of 2020. So we actually, starting next month, will have the a little gift certificate that'll be included in the intake packets of the recovery residences. So when a woman first checks in there, she will be gifted that from Divas, and that'll be a good reason to expose her to RCOs and multiple pathways.
Shonda, you have a comment from Jennifer Castro. She said the story you said was beautiful, and that Jamie does great massages. I
Yes.
just thought I'd give you that little tidbit.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Jamie has, we call them miracle fingers. She's great. And we also offer that service to helpers in our community, and those, there are a lot of CARES on the line, and, most likely many of you are using your credential work, doing this work. And so it's hard for us to slow down and do something special for ourselves. So we have to go pull peer coaches from other organizations and bring them to Jamie on occasion, because we're just busy helping. And so she loves helping the helpers. So this is just our other 2 flyers on the All Recovery meetings. And our women's All Recovery meeting has been running for about a year now. We have 2 versions of it. We have it for women only, and we do have one for families as well, for the co-ed piece. It might be couples and whatnot. And then the one up in the corner is one that we started about 2 months ago, because what we heard from community was that, I mentioned that earlier, that relationship management piece, our ladies are, abstaining from the use of substances, and then other things are popping up. And one consistent theme there, from what we're told, is in the area of sex. They are having some challenges keeping that under control, making healthy choices, and not becoming codependent in relationships that really aren't even relationships. So with that particular group, the feedback after about 2 months was that the group felt that they needed a solution. Like they were sharing, but they couldn't get to a solution. So actually, tonight will be the first night that the Sex, Love, Addiction Anonymous group will start here, which is a 12-step fellowship based around that same topic. So we are just super excited that things worked out that way, that our lady said, hey, we're looking for a solution, and simultaneously someone who's not even affiliated with our organization sent an email and said, have you ever thought of having this group? And so it worked out perfectly. All right, and on this slide, I will transition and let Elena Mullis take over for a bit.
Okay, hey everyone. I'm Elena, and I'm still a person in long-term recovery. So I'm hoping that most of everyone on here knows a little bit about medication assisted recovery. But if not, I'll give you a quick rundown. So MAT, medication assisted treatment, it stands for Suboxone, methadone, Vivitrol, and there's a couple of them in between. And up until a few years ago, actually 2 years ago, you couldn't go to any of the recovery houses in Athens and be on these medications because they were total abstinence-based programs. But over the last few years, Athens and the RCOs and Georgia Council has worked really hard to break down these barriers and break down the stigma. And I'm also contracted by Georgia Council, and I work on the MAR, which is the medication assisted recovery cares. There's 2 cohorts so far, and it's been a really great adventure and we're kind of trudging the road for the people coming up behind us, so that we can go to places like RCOs and recovery houses and live our recovery out loud and not have to feel shame about it. So Tribe, the MAPS group, which is medication assisted peer support, I created that with a couple of my peers about a year and a half ago. Like I was saying, there was nowhere for us to go where we could live our recovery out loud in the same room. It was, you can take your medication and live at this house, but you can't talk about it. And you have to go to these 12-step meetings, but you can't talk about your medication. So me and a couple other people got together and we created this MAPS group, and it is a peer-led, peer-based. It's not facilitated. We have it formatted, and that's around the time that I met Shonda, and I asked her if we could have our meeting here at the Divas, and she was just so open to it. And I remember that feeling. I remember the feeling of her saying, yes, please, like, bring that meeting here. I know that this is such a need in our community. And I had not up until then come across too many people in my community that felt that way about medication, because Athens is has a huge recovery capita, but a lot of it is that traditional 12-step based. And we also, the all recovery meetings, I'm going to name drop here, Riley Kirkpatrick. He is another person that is on the board, the working board for Georgia Council for the MAR cares. And he also works at an opioid treatment provider. And he approached us. We went to the peer workforce, and we went to an all recovery meeting at the peer workforce that they had here in Athens, and he was just taken back by the whole all recovery meeting setup. So he approached us to have a all recovery that specialized in, or not specialized, but it was around people who utilized medication, and that's how that began here. The fact that we also have a HA meeting. The only HA meeting in Athens is also here at the Divas, and that has a lot of the people who are on MAT in it, and that's how we're able to work those 12 steps and those 12 principles. So to have 3 open meetings that that welcome people like me who utilize medication has been such a way to break down barriers and stigma, because I can't talk about it at the recovery house or at the 12-step meeting, but I can come to the divas and I can talk about my medication. I can live my recovery out loud. And it's been a really important factor for me and for so many other people that I know to have places like this and to feel safe, and not only feel safe, but feel like accepted. And people ask questions like they're truly curious about how this whole thing works out, or how this whole thing works and what that looks like, rather than asking questions that are malicious in a way. And yeah, that's
All right. Larry, do you want to ask another polling question? I think I skipped over 2 of them.
Okay. So you want me to ask the next 2, number 2
Yeah.
and number 3? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great. All right. All right, guys. Time for another poll. What percentage of the peers you serve are women? Now we got up to like 83% on the first poll question. See if we can get 100%. I know, right? We gotta get these votes up. I'm only up to 52% right now, guys. Vote, vote, vote. Oh, maybe I need to vote. Let me see. All right. Give you a couple of more seconds, guys, before I close it. All righty. 11% of us on the webinar chose 0 to 25%. 50% of us chose the second option, 25 to 50%. 11% again chose 50 to 75%, and a whopping 28% chose 75% or more. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I'll go on to the third one. Do you see any overlap from your local domestic violence shelters or local sexual assault centers? Shonda, say a little bit
Yeah.
about overlap. What's
Okay.
overlap?
So overlap meaning either if you have a collaboration with your local DV shelter or sexual assault center, you're getting calls from those agencies because they have a peer that needs your services where you work, or you have a peer that comes in to receive your services and you find yourself resourcing them back to a DV shelter because they have that need due to domestic violence, or sexual assault center because they need extended care or services in that area.
Thank you. All right, so let me give you the answer. So we have 67% say yes, 33% of us said no.
Okay.
We don't see.
All
And
right.
I have a comment as well from Jennifer Castro. Thank you. I know you serve women. From what was just said about there only being a MAPS meeting at Divas, is there any options in Athens for support for men using MAT?
Oh yes, that's something that so our MAPS meeting, the all recovery meeting, and the HA meetings, those are all co-ed. We do serve 80% of our population here is women, but when it comes to a few of our meetings, MAPS, HA, and all of our all recovery meetings, all of those are co-ed, and we welcome men with open arms.
Yeah.
All right, Jennifer Castro, you're unmuted. Anything else?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So, a few more services that we found specific to women here in our community. One is the Artist's Way book study, and I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with it, but I just must put in a plug. It is so the woman who wrote this book, she's like 30 plus years in recovery from alcoholism, and it's not a book about how to become an artist, or you don't have to have some wonderful ability, But we consider a book where for our women who have experienced trauma, it's a way to work through the trauma without talking about the trauma or naming the trauma. And so it would be a little complex for me to explain how that works through this book study. But it's just something that's pretty popular in the recovery community, and we are still working towards the best modality as to how we can deliver it. We've also found that our All Recovery meeting, for those of you who offer All Recovery in your facility, it can kind of ebb and flow however you might need for it to. So earlier last month, our community was hit pretty hard with overdose and the fatalities here in our community. So we, after one young lady, we came back from her funeral, we shifted that day. We promoted an all recovery grief meeting because we knew that the community was hit hard by the loss and we wanted to be able to talk through that together. So that's why our all recovery has shifted around the topic of sex, shifted around the topic of family and reunification, grief, recovery. It can just be whatever it is you need for it to be. And then the third flyer there is our When Women Pray group. And on the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about a couple of the ways that we're going to shift with the Artist Way as well as the prayer group. But we do promote multiple pathways here. A lot of the work that we do in the center is in the 12-step fellowship, but we do also extend faith support to our peers. Okay. All right. Give me just a second. Let me go back. Yeah. Or sorry. Oh no. Okay. Maybe I didn't. All right. Okay. So here's another service that we have here in our center that's specific to the layers of a lady. We have one room that's considered our self-care parlor. And within that room is our career closet. And Elena, do you want to talk about the self-care parlor?
Yes, I will. So our self-care parlor, so over the last few months, and it's an ongoing process also, we've been collecting interview clothing. Also, if a girl is new into recovery, she can come here and get a whole experience. Whenever they get here, we give them a robe to put on. We have a little dressing room in the self-care parlor, and they get to pick out 2 outfits. And it doesn't have to be for a job interview or for court. It can just be someone that, that wants to feel and look good and look nice and doesn't have many nice clothes. We also have shoes. We have accessories. We just got a new toolbox that has all of our makeup in it. So not only can they come in and get the whole experience of, shopping in business clothes and picking out outfits and shoes and accessories, they can sit down, do their makeup. We also have hairstyling tools. Really, the way I look at it and the way it feels to me is it's a way for the women to come in here and just collaborate with us a little bit more, to start conversations, just to feel part of the Divas.
Yep. And so the women who really kind of rise to the top of the list that we as we're collaborating with other agencies, we are seeking out those who are returning citizens, those who are sex workers, those who Salvation Army's right across the street from us, so some may be homeless and in transition, and of course our recovery home residents. All right, so here we say feedback unpacks the layered lady. And so what did we hear? What have we heard in this last year, and what's coming next? So going back a few slides ago, what we heard, so one of the things that we heard was that, so the Artist Way, there was quite a bit of interest, but Wednesday night was the night that we were wanting to have that, and it wasn't quite coming together. So next month we are going to launch a Zoom format of the Artist Way, and see how that works, because we've gotten lots of questions about it, but it always comes down to scheduling, where two people say, oh, can we do it on Tuesday nights, and two other people, oh, can we do it Wednesday? So we're just going to try it out on a Zoom platform, mainly for the accountability, because it is a 12-week book study. The other tweak in our schedule, as we listen to what our ladies are saying, is the prayer group. So we didn't get quite the turnout we were hoping for with that, and that came down to scheduling again. And so in December, we are going to launch the women's prayer, which men are welcome to join us on that initiative as well. But of course, our advertisement is for women. We're going to try a phone line. We're going to see if we get some participation there off of our Facebook page. Put the phone line up, keep it on the same consistent day of the week, and see if our peers find support through that. We'd already discussed the solution-based sex relationship management. That's our new SLAA group that will be meeting here on Thursday nights. And then our outreach phone calls. So we have built that into our process, where our peer coaches make follow-up calls. We shoot for 10 calls a week, but in addition to that, if one of our coaches has had contact with 10 peers in one day, they may do 6 or 7 if they outreach calls, because there may be a peer that we've not seen since last month when she came in for a massage. So we actively reach back out to our peers.
I got a couple of hands raised. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yolanda James, you are unmuted. I guess not. She took her hand down. Yolanda James, not Yolanda James. Jennifer Castro, you are unmuted, ma'am.
I talk too much. I just wanted to say that I think it's amazing what divas are doing. I follow them on Facebook. I saw the jewelry y'all added to your closet. I think all this is amazing. I'm excited about the Zoom for the Artist Way. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you. Yay. Yeah, one of my favorite sayings to our team is the old if you build it, they will come, and so we started breathing life back into the self-care, because we'll go in phases and we'll get so much, and then resources are depleted, so we wait. And just as we were talking about putting the vouchers in the intake packet so that we can get ladies over here as quickly as possible after intake, there was a lady who was liquidating her paparazzi jewelry company and wanted to send it all to us. So our peers are going to have such a great time with that.
Oh, that's awesome. I would love that. Let me see if anybody else have any questions. Hey guys, if you have any questions, now's a good time. Raise your hand real quick, and we'll get them in while she's on break. Doreen Kinney, please say your comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Hi, this is Doreen Kenny. I'm a CARE 7, and I'm also a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is I haven't had any mood or mind-altering substance for 12 years and some change. And I have a 21-year-old daughter. And Shonda, I really appreciate this webinar and you sharing everything that has been talked here about where people can go, what people can do, and just being able to have another source to give mothers or daughters or friends or family and allies, um, because she might not always come or talk to me, but I have your book, so I do know your personal story, and I have left that at the house. I've given it to her, and I'm always telling my kids all the time. Well, they're not kids anymore. I need to stop saying that. They're young adults. They are 21 and 26, but I always tell my daughter to the four B's to be careful, to be helpful, to be aware of your surroundings. That is like a big thing, to be aware of your surroundings, and to behave. I've been telling them that because my grandfather told me that. I'm not, it wasn't a female in my family who told me that. It was my grandfather who told me that. And I try to pass that on to my kids. But that being aware of your surroundings, from right in our complex to around the corner at the gas station, to even Six Flags, yeah, I really tell people and share with my daughter that she really has to be aware of her surroundings because you can get snatched up,
Mm-hmm.
um, just by not paying attention, and to actually be careful with the people who you are around. So I just thank you guys for having this, as far as the domestic violence, the sexual assault, and the boyfriend left me, and oh, what am I going to do? All that. I've heard that in different levels of my recovery, in different sister circles, and I've been in circles with men and women who have shared, that their fear, or their concern about our children who are growing up, even if they are growing up in a household of people who are in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
There's still just sick people out there, period. So
Yeah.
just thank you very much for having this webinar. I appreciate it. I just wanted to make a comment.
All
Thank you.
right. Absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Lorene.
much.
We have Rosalind Chambers. You are unmuted.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Chambers. I am part of Mar Cares 36,
Whoop, whoop.
and I am also, yeah, right. I'm also a person that utilizes all of the services at Divas Humane Freedom Center. And I just wanted to say thank you to Shonda and to Elena, and let you guys know how much I love and appreciate each of you at Divas, because it has made all the difference in my life and my self-care today. So thank you.
Oh,
well,
we love you, Rhonda.
yes, thanks, Rhonda.
Well, I love you guys too. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for me. I don't see any more hands raised right now. So thank
All
you.
right. So we will flow right into so community. This is the as we are bringing this presentation to a close. This is maybe the most important part, because one of the things that I consistently say in all the circles for which Divas has a chance to have a platform is that the statistics here in Georgia are the average onboarding age into being sold sexually or exploited is age 12 to 14. And there are 300 to 400 girls being sold online every single month in the state of Georgia. What people don't tend to realize is that there is, and I will have to come up with a trauma-informed way of saying this, but for lack of the term, I call it shelf life. So statistics say that 7 years is the duration of time that a girl will be involved. A girl who's been trafficked will stay in the life, and she dies out. And I know that feels horrible to say, but the part that I want to lift up is the fact that if she beats the odds of that 7-year term, or if she was onboarded into the sex trade maybe at age 16 instead of 12, then by age 23, Has she now developed a substance use disorder? Many times the answer is yes to that. So that means we have the opportunity to engage with her. And I promote, society is really concerned about girls under age 18 being involved in the sex trade, but after the age of 18, those same women are considered prostitutes, and there's so much shame and stigma around that. So any chance we get, we are reminding our legislators, we are reminding our politicians, we are reminding our judges that these women were once girls and they still need services. And so with that said, I wanted to point out a couple of community stakeholders that play a major role in what we do. One is the Cottage Sexual Assault Center, and they are unique. They service Northeast Georgia, but they have a LGBTQ advocate there specifically for that community, as well as sex trafficking. They offer free counseling services. They are integrated throughout the community with different therapists that a woman can get up to 12 sessions through a referral from the cottage. And they also have support groups there, as well as they're right next door to the police station. So if a woman wants to make a report, then she's able to do so. Part of my daughter's recovery story, after she was trafficked from our area into the city of Atlanta and then on over onto the west side, her assault and the things that happened to her were there. But when she came back after being moved out of state for over a year, I directly took her to the cottage, and had her assault and trafficking happened here, there was a police officer that would come right there to the sexual assault center, and she would not have to go through that process by herself. An advocate from the cottage would sit alongside her. So they are just a beautiful resource for us. Divorce care. This is a more recent resource that we became aware of here in our area. Through divorce care, a woman can have her child legitimized, parenting classes. They work with them on a reunification plan, supervised visitation. And the part that I thought was just beautiful was the financial consulting piece, to show women how they can become financially independent, and what that looks like and what all that takes, and to have somebody there to walk with them. And I'll skip on down here to Project Safe, which is our DV shelter here in Athens. They are an emergency shelter, and they also help with some transitional housing, therapy. Even they keep a bed available. It's not just for women. If there is someone from the LGBTQ community, they are able, or not, I mean, it can just be a man. They have the availability to shelter a man that's experiencing domestic violence as well. So Project Safe has been around for over 20 years, and they are just a rock solid organization. All right, so we'd like to take a couple minutes here to talk about some of so part of our mission, as we stated in the beginning, was advocacy and education. And so here is the education piece. So Larry, do you want to ask the final polling question? I think we do it now.
Sure. All right, guys. Uh, yes, it is over at 6:30. In case somebody was asking me that. Here is the poll question: have you ever been trained specifically in the area of sex trafficking? Yes or no? And I'll get the responses to you in just a minute. We're up to 72% of us that's voted. I'll give you about 10 more seconds. You might be surprised by the results, Shonda. Let's see. So, the results are 21% of everyone in the webinar say no, yes, and 79% of us has not had any training.
All right. Well, opportunities. Opportunities. So you'll hear the term that's kind of just used in the lingo when we talk about sex trafficking is DMST, which stands for domestic minor sex trafficking. That's for a girl that's being trafficked here on U.S. soil. If it's an individual that was brought from another country and being trafficked here, the term would be called CSEC. So that's the only difference. It just really means where they were born. But we offer this training. We have trained the endorsement team at Georgia Council. We've offered a training here for the emergency room coaches and then some cares that work at the local CSBs. We've taken this training to churches. We've also recently trained one of our OTP clinics here. And it's just great information to have and to be aware of. When we talk about sex trafficking, I think that women in recovery, we intuitively understand either from our own experience or from the experience of our peers that this thing kind of goes hand in hand. We're just now getting a language for it. Sex work, sex trade, commercial sexual exploitation, all those things kind of end up in the same pot and get stirred around. And, individuals survive that work and that life through what creates a substance use disorder and a dependency to get through it, right? So, we're still sort of trudging the way for those who don't really understand about recovery or the opioid epidemic or sex trafficking. We're just softly, gently trying to say, like, look here, the two go together. So our diplomatic way of educating around that is to bring this training to your community.
So, Chanda,
Yeah.
Bridget Jones typed in the question, and it is, does the training, basically your training, that counts for, I guess, the poll question. So that counts as training for sexual trafficking, right?
Yes, the DMST that Divas offers, yes, that would be sex trafficking training, yes.
Okay, do you have another question from Charlie Elliott? Is there a minimum age for a peer to receive? Is it age 16?
For a peer to receive
services at Divas.
okay.
Let me unmute him. Charlie, you are, he don't have he can't be unmuted. So he said, yeah, for minimum age for a peer to receive your services.
Yeah, so that age would be 18. And if it was an individual younger than that, then we would, like the earlier question that came on, we would just redirect that peer to Georgia Cares, who would then involve them directly here, most likely with Department of Family Children's Services and Athens Clarke County Police.
Thank you. I think that's it. Charlie, can you talk? I'm going to send you the pin. And if you need to make a comment, put your hand back up, okay? All right, that's it for now. Thank you, Shonda.
Okay. All right. We also offer a work readiness certification, and this is a 25-hour soft skills training. Who the ideal client is, really most of the women who come here because they're living in a communal setting. So, shared bathroom, shared bedroom, shared cooking duties and whatnot. And that can just be challenging, to say the least. So through this She Works certification, it not only leverages our peers to cohabitate better, but it really gives them some of the soft skills that perhaps they missed along the way as, a substance use disorder interrupted their pathway. Time being incarcerated, it was an interruption somewhere. So as they get reintegrated back into society, we want to equip them with just the basic skills that are necessary so they don't find themselves seeking employment again and again and again. And so far, we have graduated 42 participants from this program. And then lastly is our self-care navigation workshop. Yeah, it is what it says. It's safely navigating these waters in recovery work or outside of that. And so this can be conducted in a 1 to 3 hour setting, just depending on what the agency wants. We have conducted this workshop with over 200 CARES graduates. We show up on the last day of the CARES Academy and offer this self-care workshop. And we've been fortunate to even bring the training beyond the Georgia Council and CARES to offer it to those who are working in CSBs, churches, and now trying to work our way into the corporate setting because it gives us a platform to talk about substance use disorders and sex trafficking as well. Well, that pretty much brings us to the close of our training. These are just some pictures that make us smile. The picture there in the top right corner was a sex trafficking training that we offered here in Athens. Beneath there that wasn't a training, that was just sharing some recovery messaging with some church ladies, and me about to take flight with the microphone in my hand. Just some beautiful women in recovery from a couple of programs in Atlanta. And when I say those ladies like lit my soul on fire, like that is my sweet spot. That is where I love to be. So many of them had experience in all three parts of the mission, and it just felt great to be back there in that place of 13 years ago when I was desperate for someone to give me some hope and convince me that I hadn't completely destroyed my life and my children's lives.
Hey,
Yeah,
Shonda,
go ahead.
we got about 25 more minutes. Maybe
Okay.
questions or
Yeah.
something. Ends at 6:30.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. I was hoping they would fill us up these last 20 minutes or so with questions. That's the guts of the information. Our next slide just talks about two of our kind of community celebratory pillars that we experience each year. Is one is called Joy Fest, the other one is She Is Well. She Is Well is our wellness conference that we take out into the community. We've held that twice, so this upcoming year it will be the third She Is Well, where we encourage anyone in the healthcare industry, anyone associated with wellness for women in any capacity. They set up vendor tables. We have some powerful recovery stories. The ladies get dressed up and come to a nice venue, and we just spend time together, and women get exposed to resources that they didn't know existed right here in their own town. And then we have Joy Fest, which is upcoming in just a couple of weeks. So I always share that I checked into treatment in October of 2006, and it was such a difficult time because my two oldest sons have birthdays in November, and one of the things our rehab would take us into town once a week to shop at Walmart. And the first time I went, I just melted into the floor. I couldn't handle the Christmas music and jingle bells and all of that. So it was always important to me to remember that hardship and remember really how difficult holiday season can be, period, for anyone who's experienced loss. And that means even loss of marriage and relationship. And when you're alone taking care of your kids, it's just really hard. So Joy Fest is just what it says. We are going to have live music and Santa Claus, and somebody said a snow machine was coming to make it snow right here at 645 Hawthorne Avenue, and desserts and just fun and fellowship together. So we are just super excited about that. So that's the final slide. That's some pictures of She Is Well from last spring, and then Joy Fest coming up.
okay, I have a comment from Al Cotton. He says he would like to know more about your self-care workshop. Is that to help might burn out from working in this area?
So yes, the self-care workshop helps individuals not experience compassion fatigue. And so you're exactly right. So in the self-care workshop, we discuss the 5 areas of self-care to try to keep ourselves balanced. And in our workshops, we collectively come up with brainstorm ideas of what someone else might be doing for their physical self-care, what works for them. Someone else may do something different for their emotional self-care. So by the time all the different groups, collaborate around these huge sticky notes, we walk away with probably 100+ ideas in 5 separate areas of self-care. And it inspires our peers and our peer coaches to either revive a certain practice that maybe fell by the wayside a few years ago, or explore something new. But it does help with the avoidance of compassion fatigue, and it challenges those of us who are doing this work to keep that principle of put the oxygen mask on yourself first, keeping that in front of mind.
Okay, thank you. Bridget Jones, you are unmuted. Unmute yourself and you can speak, please.
Hey, I'm Bridget. I'm a person in long-term recovery and cares 33. Right? So I heard briefly, and please, and I apologize that my child is like yelling mom every 5 minutes. But I heard briefly, you talk about family restoration services that you offer. Would you mind like expounding on that? What
So yeah, Bridget, sure. So divorce care, that is, so we have another resource here in Athens that's called the Athens for Justice, and they have a legal clinic once a month. And our peers, anyone in our community that needs free legal advice on any topic that there is, there's a consortium of about 25 attorneys that come together and donate these services back to community each month. So recently, we met a woman that has a nonprofit. This service just started here in Athens in April of this year. So her services include, she does individual, family, and group therapy, both for children and adults can receive specialized therapeutic services that will address pre-existing concerns as well as transition-related issues. So that would be the reunification piece. She also talks about that in her parent coordination, and she says that she uses an integrated model which includes the participation of the child's therapist with a combination of meditation, psychotherapy, and parents are assisted in resolving disagreements and increase their co-parenting skills. So this is just a wonderful service that's not offered in Divas, but we outsource it. And her name is Courtney Fields McIvy. She's a LCSW, and she has over 20 years experience working in the multidisciplinary environment with children's and families that are in conflicts of various sorts. She also does the financial consultation, evaluations, and supervised visitation. And Bridget, we just got a stack of her brochures to keep on our resource table, so feel free to grab one the next time you're at the Divas.
Thank you, Shonda. Beth Hansen has a comment. Thank you, Shonda. She needs to practice more self-care for sure. This position can really wear on a person at times. Love you, girl. So, Beth, I'm going to unmute you. You're able to talk if you like. And Shonda, you can respond as well.
Thank you, Shonda. We just love you.
I love you. So when are you and Dawn coming to get on this massage table?
Oh, we were just talking about that.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
they said they don't have openings till December.
well, if you all call tomorrow, Elena is here. We will find a spot to put your 2 bodies on the table.
Fantastic. Here comes Dawn right now. She
Well,
wants to
Beth,
know.
wait a minute before you go. Can you share? You're saying this kind of work, what this position?
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't know what you do. Can you please
Oh, right.
a little bit
So,
about
and
that?
Dawn Mullinax is standing here with me as well. We are peer recovery coaches in the emergency department at the hospital here in Gainesville. We also serve Brazelton and Winder, and we are seeing peers when they're in their crisis. They're coming in. We're seeing overdose peers, any peer with a substance use disorder. Most of them also have a mental health disorder going on, and this can really, really wear on you at times. And I do not practice enough self-care. I'll just admit it. So that's going to be my deliberate goal starting soon, hopefully tomorrow. Say something, Dawn.
Oh, hello, everyone.
Hey, Dawn.
Hey,
Hey, Dawn.
Shonda.
Hey, friend.
Hey, friend. So, thanks for your webinar and all the great things that you do. And I look forward to receiving a box of your business cards so that we can continue to collaborate and do our peer workforce together.
Amen.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dawn and Beth.
Thank you.
There's a Christy Brown is there a fee to reside in Freedom Center? And she's asking just in case she needs to refer a peer.
Okay, so we're not a residential program, but we are, I guess you would look at it as a day center. So there are no fees, not even for our massages. So any service that we talked about tonight or any service that you see on our website, all of those services are free. The only services that are fee-based are community trainings, but we work with organizations. If there's organizations that don't have a budget for training, we creatively come up with something else. But in terms of our peers that we interface with, every single service is free.
All righty. Let me see. One moment. Christy, you're unmuted. Anything else? Okay, guess not. Charles Elliott, his question is, what about narcissistic abuse? I guess he wants you to talk about that. He can't speak. He doesn't have a audio. So, Shonda.
Yes. So I guess I don't fully understand the question. What I am gathering from the question is maybe he's talking about what if you are in a relationship with someone who is a narcissist and that can feel abusive, that is abusive in some people's experience. So if that's his question, then I would think that just based on, somebody would have to unpack that and we wouldn't be the experts. Our peer we could talk about that. We could share our narcissism stories because we got a whole bunch of them, but we would refer that particular peer to Project Safe because I do know that Project Safe recognizes abuse in all of its forms, not just physical abuse. They recognize financial abuse. Some women don't even know that that exists. When you have someone who's in power and control, won't let you have a checking account, makes you do certain things to get $10 allowance and whatnot. Like some people are not well and they abuse any power they have, and financial abuse is one of those things. So Project Safe is very open to the continuum of abuse, and narcissism is one of the legs of that.
Okay, thank you. Deb Esposito, her hand is raised. You are unmuted. There you go. Deb, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Awesome. Hey, Shonda. I just love Shonda and I love all the work that you do. And I think that we should totally have an outreach to come to Divas. But my name is Deb and I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means for me is that I've been clean for almost 6 years. And I am a peer recovery coach for Northeast Georgia Community Connection with the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse, and in the emergency department at the hospitals as well. And I just want to say thank you to Shonda, because my whole journey started right there at Divas, coming to an open gathering. And I just love you, and I love what you do for women. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you, Deb.
Absolutely, woman.
Rock
Keep it
star.
up. You're a rock
Yes.
star. Thank you, guys. This was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. We got about 10 more minutes,
Okay.
everyone. Any more questions? Oh, okay, here go one. Chandra Walker, you're unmuted. Please unmute yourself now. You click on the mic with your mouse.
Okay,
There you go.
I'm there. All right.
Thank
I just want to say to Shonda, that you are doing a very great job, and I want to know when you're going to expand.
Oh gosh. So what is actually next for us, and where I wrote that somewhere today, I guess it wasn't in this presentation, but so we recently moved from, and Shonda, you were there at She as Well back in May, and when we were in the warehouse, and you've been to the new Divas, but our
Yeah.
old space is now going to become our sex trafficking awareness and sex trafficking and opioid awareness education center. So that's a very long word, but our goal is to launch that May of 2020 and really partner in with our healthcare system, just talking more about this conversation about recovery, RCOs, peer coaches in the emergency department, but it will also serve as, for lack of better terminology, the freedom experience, and that will be where our community can come in and they will walk through the various stages of trafficking in a graphic, horrifying way, but in a very trauma-informed way to become educated. And that will be open about 15 hours a week as we get started in May.
So your service is only going to be in the setting of Athens.
For now, it is until our budget grows, until we get more peer coaches and just see what the needs are. For us, our intent would be to go on up in Northeast Georgia, to the unreached areas. And I know our friend Claudia down at Living Proof in Rome is doing some outreach and having, I think, peer coaches on site in some of the rural areas. So we, our thing is leaning into community with our ear and listening for what's needed. And so it sounds like I'm hearing you say there is a need beyond Athens specific with this gender.
Definitely, this is an issue that is growing in Georgia, like it's really taken off. And right now, Georgia is the state capital of this sex trafficking, and just it doesn't just happen in Athens; it happens all over Georgia. So to expand more on in other cities and about Georgia would be awesome. You have a vision. You've had a vision. The vision is here, and it needs to expand. It needs to be where other people can reach the tools that you have to give back to others, which is awesome. And I love you so much, and you are just an awesome diva. And I appreciate the webinar, and I appreciate the work that you do. And I'm just praying on your behalf that it can stem from not just here, but in other places in Georgia as well.
Chandra,
Yes.
we have a RCO coordinator. He will be happy to talk more about maybe you could start a RCO in your area.
I have talked to Miss Shonda.
Yeah,
I am.
yeah,
I've
because
got
that.
some ideas on that. Not exactly like hers. I mean, hers is awesome. But it's just the support that we have as sisters to, come together and as a unity and in unity to, you know, put out there what it is needed. And this is a great, 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 awesome program for women in sex trafficking because of Georgia being so high in it right now.
Thank
And
you.
I have other ideas, but it's not on the sex trafficking tip. But I just love what she does, and I just think it just needs to be spread a little bit more. And I was just trying to see how, if it can be expanded, how would she do that? And because Athens is Northeast Georgia,
Yeah.
and
You can call and talk to Brian Kite of the Georgia Council, and he might
mhm.
be able to help you come up with something.
Okay,
As how to expand or
yeah,
start your own RCO with the, domestic violence or doing something that Shonda do. Maybe she can collaborate with you then. All right,
okay. Well, I
Sis,
appreciate.
all
thank
right.
you, Shonda. Love you.
I got Ida Thomas. You are unmuted. You have to unmute yourself. Ida Thomas, your hand is
There we
raised.
go.
There you
I,
go.
hello, hello.
Hi.
Did you say when your 2020 conference, did you give the dates for that?
For for our She Is Well
Hello?
for the She Is Well
Yeah,
conference. Yes, so
is
that
that spring?
the tentative date that we have until we lock in the venue, but that date will be here it is, April the 25th.
It's only one day
Yes, ma'am. It's a one-day event. Yes, ma'am.
and it's in Athens?
Yes.
Okay. Can you send some notification on that? Or
So,
just get in touch with you?
right, if you like us on Facebook, we're pretty active on there with
Okay.
multiple things that we have going on, or you can subscribe to our email list by going to our website, and updates are shared that way. But with that being one of our bigger events, we always push that out there. So on the final page, the farewell page of this webinar, there's our website there at the bottom. It's divaswhowin.org.
And I just came back in October from the Forensic Counselors Conference in Vegas, and they did training for individuals to become certified in sex and human trafficking. I didn't do the certification, and I didn't actually go to any of the workshops. Maybe I'll do it next year, but they were doing like the 3-day courses so they could get people certified.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you. We got time for one last comment. Doreen Kinney, your hand is raised. You are unmuted.
Hey, Shonda, how are you?
I'm good.
This has been great. I just wanted you to just take a few minutes to share how when you started this vision, because I remember at the beginning with just what you started with the vision of Divas Who Win and the personal experience, but just starting from the basic library and asking those few questions to the community. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I'll cry my way out of this webinar. So yeah, the first group, Georgia Council, came up to support us for our first listening session. I think we had maybe 9 people, and Doreen was, and half of the 9 was the staff from Georgia Council. And I felt so bad that they drove, rush hour traffic through Atlanta to come, and they just encouraged me that it didn't matter about the number, it just mattered who was in the room. And then we did it again like 2 months later. I think we had maybe close to 30 people at that point. And so my hope was, lifting. And at that time, we were going to be gender specific, but a single mission, just substance use disorder. And at that time, I didn't even disclose to groups that I came out of the sex trade 22 years ago. But in that interim, you know, my daughter had her experience, and it took about 6 months to just catch my breath again. And I was ready then at that point to manifest something into the earth, because I wanted people to get the education and prevent these things from happening. And that was like 2 years ago. So it started, you know, at the library. It was a free resource to meet. And then by faith, I shut down my little makeup business that was a 300 square foot room, and bought one carpet and 2 pillows to sit on the floor until 35 NA women filled the floor there.
Come
And
on.
we stretched on to the 800 square feet until 45 women couldn't fit in that space. And people still
Yes.
talk about the challenge of the bus route. You know, it was tucked away in a warehouse. And then we wrote it on paper. But my dear friend from an RCO in Atlanta, Alexia Jones, said, go to work today and write it on the walls what you want. We wrote it, and within 2 weeks, we signed a lease on this 3,000 square foot building with the fully paid
Awesome.
staff.
All
Yeah.
right. You
Yes.
took us out with that. Great question, Doreen. Great question. Thank you so much, Shonda and Alana. We appreciate you just giving us all this information, and you're a wealth of information for women and your support of women. I also want to thank everybody else in the webinar. Again, I said earlier that you should receive an email saying that you attended this webinar. You should get it in a day or two, and that will serve as your proof for your 1.5 CEUs. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. Till next month, have a good Thanksgiving.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye,
y'all.
y'all.
Bye.